Welcome to Momisode, episode 1. Garet is on maternity leave, but don't worry, she's still here.
In spirit. No, I'm kidding. Like, we're pre-recording this. Which we told you we were going to do. There's going to be some pre-recorded content that's going to be up. We're doing some shorts. Some
Pants.
more bites. Some more pans. Some more bite-sized episodes. On smaller topics.
Yeah, so this is a topic where I just read one study.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't, I looked into other studies just to verify some things, but I didn't do, like, the normal deep dive that we usually do.
Yeah.
But it was a deep dive into this one study.
Okay.
So I was sent a reel on Facebook by my mom, which was a TikTok that was shared to Facebook.
Mm-hmm. Shared
by somebody with the TikTok username Destiny the Natural Mama.
Oh, that's a bad start.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds like anti-vax.
I'm going to play it into the microphone, but you'll hear it too. It's the imagery is this person. It's like that green screen thing.
Yeah.
The primary footage is of a local ABC News, report on their local news station. And Destiny is in the foreground in this, like, green screen thing, like, pointing at shit on the screen.
Drives me batty.
Yes, I knew you'd like it.
Format of things. I just think it's the most annoying. I'm sorry, anyway.
Let's see if it plays.
So really setting it up for success. All these things that I hate in one.
Yes. I knew you'd like it.
Parents who have a child with ADHD, managing the diagnosis can be daunting, but experts are looking at the surprisingly effective benefits of saffron extract. Lori Corbin takes a look at today's Circle of Health report.
Like the herb?
People are asking, what can I do for my kids that need help with focus and need help with stress resilience and need help sitting still and paying attention and things like that?
Biochemist Sean Talbot says there are some natural options to consider before taking medication.
This guy sounds like he needs fucking Ritalin.
Saffron extract.
This saffron can help with depression in teenagers, equivalent to Prozac.
Come on!
ADHD in children, equivalent to Ritalin. So those studies really got my attention.
Talbot's company, Amari Global, helped create a supplement called Kids Mood that contains saffron. And other health experts have weighed in on saffron's potential.
Saffron's really exciting. I think in the last decade, there are literally dozens of studies showing it helps with depression, actually head-to-head against antidepressants.
Dr. Daniel Amen said a recent study compared 50 children using saffron extract to the drug Ritalin and found it to be equally effective,
50.
also helping to decrease hyperactivity. Saffron is the most expensive spice in the world.
I was going to say, it's like really hard to get.
It's not as effective as the extract. And there are other brain helpers, such as pomegranates, berries, apples, and theanine found in...
Okay.
Apples are going to cure my fucking ADHD.
So,
I'm about to fight Destiny, what was her granola
Natural
mom?
Mama.
Yeah, I'm going to fight her.
So my mom sent me that, and I immediately was pissed.
Can I make a guess?
Okay.
So based on listening to maintenance phase episodes, did the extract company do their own study?
Garet,
What?
why would you ruin my story?
I'm sorry. That's how all the maintenance phase ones go. They'll be like, this random thing is going to cure this. And then they're like, they find out
that first guy that they were talking to, they said, owns the company that makes this supplement. Now, the imagery in the video is like these like little pouches, like you have like
those sachets.
like a pouch,
things.
Yeah, like of like Crystal
lavender.
Light or whatever.
Oh.
No, like the No.
I'm thinking like you put in your drawers.
No, like the flavor pouches
to
add into water. It's like that, and
or
I
like
guess
electrolytes or
the idea is that you mix that with a bottle of water, give it to your kid, and it boosts their mood and cures depression and all this other bullshit. So the second guy that was talking was some guy whose last name was Amen, like Amen.
Mm-hmm.
He was in a white jacket, but Destiny nicely with her green screen effect, covered the rest of his name and title and like where he potentially worked. But regardless, I saw this reel and it was really from listening to Maintenance Phase, where it was like, this guy, you know, fucking Jordan Peterson Wish version,
Yeah.
2.0, owns a company that makes a supplement. And I was like, oh, ding ding, here we go. So I found the study. Obviously, I'm dripping with skepticism here. But I figured, okay, it's talking about ADHD. Like, let me see what I can find.
Let me see it.
Which is why my mom sent it to me. Like, it was about ADHD. So, also, to note, the person that shared this fucking clip to her TikTok and her Facebook page, in the comments of the Facebook video, she's pinned a comment from herself saying, hey, make sure you use this code for $10 off of the supplement that they're talking about.
Ma'am. So I was just about to ask you if Destiny was posting this, like, look at this fucking guy, or if it was like pro Saffron.
No, pro that specific
Water.
bullshit
Oh my
supplement
God.
pouch thing with apple extract, I guess, and theanine. Anyway,
Apples could cure ADHD. I would have been cured.
so I found this study, and this study I did find on, it's called Efficacy of Saffron Extract on Treatment for Children and Adolescents. Okay.
From saffron.org.
Yeah. So this was first published online on September 28th, 2022, so super recent, less than a year ago, even as this episode comes out. And this article was authored in part by somebody named Hilario Plasco Fantasia.
Mm-hmm.
This study specifically used a saffron extract called Saffractive, SAFFR''ACTIV, which is produced and sold by a Spanish company called Masso. This whole study was done in Spain.
Okay.
So they used this saffron extract from a Spanish company called Masso. The purpose of the study was to compare the efficacy of methylphenidate, also known as Concerta when it's administered in an extended release form, or Ritalin in an instant release form, with the efficacy of saffron extract in treating ADHD symptoms. The reason for this study, in the first paragraph of the introduction, states, quote, although ADHD medications are safe and the profile of side effects is usually mild, many parents and patients are reluctant to take these medications. Accordingly, different authors have advocated for the use of alternative treatments such as neurofeedback, serious video games, and or nutritional supplements. A serious video game, by the way, because I checked.
Yeah,
what the
like
fuck
what
that
is the
meant.
definition of that?
Online chess. So,
Just kidding. There's nothing wrong with online chess.
yeah, I was like, what the fuck is a serious, like, Call of Duty? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, instead of Mario Party? Like, I don't know. But yeah,
Like,
evidently
no, checkers.
something that's, like, I guess using, like, problem solving rather than shooting stuff. I don't know. Whatever. Okay, so saffron, if you don't know, is a spice extracted from saffron crocus and is traditionally used as a food additive and colorant worldwide.
And it is like super rare, super expensive. It comes from a crocus, which they only grow for like a very short period of time.
Grow from like March 28th to April 5th in this area of the world.
It's like and I feel like France, and I want to say like India, I feel like also grows them. But it's like wildly expensive.
Yeah. You can find it, I mean, I've seen it in our grocery stores, but they come in like little threads almost.
Yes.
And you use like a single thread
Yes.
in a whole pot of like paella.
Yeah.
But it provides this like really deep, rich orange color.
Yeah. Beautiful color, but what the
Yeah. So anyway. Oh, you're gonna get madder.
Yeah.
I'm telling like I was hyped. I finished this research last night and I called PK and I was like marching around my apartment while I'm telling him all about this.
And then
Oh, for sure. And he was like, wow, that's a lot.
do you feel better now?
Basically. He's like, did you tire yourself out, kiddo? That was some big feelings, right? But then this study noted in its introduction, saffron has been used as a natural remedy for several diseases given its anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties. The article cited in furtherance of this statement, the article that was cited in furtherance of that statement concluded, because I did click on that citation, that study concluded, quote, saffron shows beneficial effects in many digestive diseases. Prophylactic and therapeutic characteristics of saffron are mainly done through its antioxidant and anti-inflammatory effects, inhibition of cell proliferation, induction of apoptosis, and genoprotective properties. The article went on to state, quote, clinical trials are needed in order to define the real beneficial effects of saffron components in prevention, treatment, and mitigation of many digestive diseases in human subjects. So this is what science does, though, right? We have one study, they talk about digestive health and possible inhibition of cell proliferation and the protective properties that this could offer. So we have that hypothesis that those properties could provide help to folks with neurodegenerative conditions, which is part of what the study that pissed me off in the first place says. However, historically or naturopathic medicines that use saffron to treat everything from rheumatoid arthritis, inflammatory bowel diseases, Alzheimer's, colon, stomach, breast, lung, and skin cancers, and could maybe improve lipid profiles and modulate hypertension, was listed as the support for having the hypothesis in this study for helping ADHD symptoms. And
seems like a reach.
well, I was at this point, this is saffron as a cure-all. We can use it for everything. We can use it from cancer to
which they talk about on Sawbones all the time.
And I said, what do we know about cure-alls? They cure nothing.
Right.
So
literally snake oil.
Mm-hmm. Except snake oil was really actually a thing that worked.
What did it work? What? On what?
Oh, you didn't know this?
No.
So the Chinese immigrants that were here building the railroads in California had snake oil from a Chinese water snake, because when they boiled down the snake, this oil was able to be skimmed off, and it was like China gel. It actually provided a Bengay benefit for muscle tension and body aches.
But that's cool.
Right, but it actually worked.
Yeah.
Cut to white people ruining everything.
Yeah.
Decided to just use any old snake they found in America. Did the same process. It didn't do anything because
it's a different snake.
Yeah, something about the enzymes or whatever the fuck in the Chinese water snake are at a huge concentration, which is what gives that spicy feeling. It has the same properties as a ghost pepper or whatever. So it has
it has that niacin or whatever.
Yeah.
In it. Yeah.
So capsaicin is what
Yeah. So brings increases blood flow to the skin.
Right.
Yeah.
So the because the white people were selling bullshit snake oil, it became, oh, you're a snake oil salesman, whereas
I didn't know that.
the actual snake oil really did work.
Meanwhile, the Chinese immigrants are you guys fucking suck.
Yeah.
Basically.
Oh my God. So yeah.
This is the bad kind of snake oil.
Exactly.
This is the gross American snake oil.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the study with the 50 participants, they started by dividing the study participants into two groups. One group had 36 people and the other group had 27 people at the start.
Mm-hmm.
They had male and female participants. All participants were aged 7 to 17. Mm-hmm. All participants had to be unmedicated, either had never been medicated or had been unmedicated for at least 6 months prior to the start of the study. The study lasted 3 months. Participants' parents or guardians were allowed to select which group their child participated in, the saffron group or the methylphenidate group.
Shouldn't the whole concept be that they don't know which group they're a part of?
You'd think. Both medications were coupled with psychoeducation in addition to just taking the medication.
So like a behavioral component to it. Okay.
Yes. Methylphenidate was administered in an extended release form, titrated up to 1 milligram per kilogram per day, taken with food in the morning.
Okay.
So when I was 17, I was like 165 pounds, and I would have been on like, at the max dose, I would have been on like a 72 milligram dose, which I never got up to that high of a dose now.
Seems super high.
Super high. But anyway, the point is it was titrated and taken in the morning with food. Saffron was administered at the steady rate of 30 milligrams per day and administered at night with food. So
you're administering it differently.
And at different quantities.
Yep.
The study found that saffron was more effective than methylphenidate for hyperactivity symptoms, while methylphenidate was more effective for managing inattentiveness symptoms. The primary emphasis of this study's results was that saffron provided, quote, moderate improvements in executive functioning matters compared to more mild improvement in the core ADHD symptoms of inattention, hyperactivity, and impulsivity. The study noted that saffron, which had already been noted in previous studies to improve sleep quality, which is why they gave it at night.
And that's what I was going to say, like maybe it's just improving their symptoms because they're sleeping better.
Well, they noted that the saffron had improved the quality of sleep in ADHD study participants, except the only actual difference was that both medications resulted in participants in both groups reporting more hours of sleep per night. The saffron just made it easier for them to fall asleep. Except the study was silent as to whether the nighttime routine was monitored for all the participants, what their home life was like, any other issues these kids might have been dealing with, if they all had two-parent households,
right?
If they had any siblings that also had ADHD that weren't in the study.
Also,
any number of things.
Self-reported? So are people like placebo effect kind of with this and just...
Well, maybe. Also, there was a mention, and it wasn't fully explained in the article, that some of the participants, some of the subjects of this study, it sounded like they lived in like a group home setting, like they might have been wards of the state.
So they probably didn't even have a choice.
Right, and then they were enrolled in this fucking setting.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, hello, Willowbrook.
That's all I could think.
Christ.
So anyway, in noting, they did do a thing where they're like, the limitations of the study, the researchers did note that the study was neither random nor blind. The patients were able to choose their treatment and were aware of what they received. There was no control group given nothing.
It's pointless.
And I think the lack of so what initially stood out to me is that they titrated the methylphenidate, but they didn't titrate the saffron extract.
These things were administered completely differently.
Right. And I feel like if you're going to say this can totally manage these symptoms, you have to actually administer it, even if ultimately you end up saying, hey, this is better if you give it at night than in the day.
I don't even see how that would work with an attention-based, like, if you're looking for something to help ADHD.
Well, it's kind of like, I would take it as, like, the guy in the fucking clip was like, it can fix depression, which once you build up a level of the SSRI in your system, and you're taking it at the same time, it's the same with birth control. You take it at the same time every day, you have this constant level. Right. So at that point, if you're using it as, like, a dopamine situation,
right,
then, yeah, it would have more constant levels.
But I feel like you're, like, the peak efficacy of the dosage, you're getting it
right after you, yeah.
Right, like your body's metabolizing that while you're sleeping.
Right. So first of all, dealing with the titration issue, I felt like if you were really going to determine or compare the efficacy of something, like they didn't explain how they came up with the idea that 30 milligrams was the effective dose regardless of weight or age of the participant.
Oh, so everybody got 30 milligrams.
Right, 7-year-old or 17. Yes.
But we're giving these crazy high doses of Concerta.
Right. So, like, and again, you're using a pubescent study subject, but aren't necessarily accounting for how their hormones fluctuated during that 3-month duration, how those hormones would have been affected by anything else going on in their lives, or how, like, the efficacy of Concerta, which we know is affected by hormones, especially in pubescent women,
Right.
or pubescent girls, is affected. So, like, there was no mention of that.
I think the dynamic that's freaking me out the most is how many of these kids were in like a
Like, potentially not consenting.
right
Yeah.
or
Or without parents who could consent.
right.
Yeah.
Who's signing off on
It's very
this?
Willowbrook.
Yes.
Um,
I mean, do they want
So-
a pat on the back because they're not giving people fucking hepatitis? Is that like where the bar is right now?
Evidently.
Probably.
Look, we named a podcast
It's
what
in
we
hell.
named it.
This episode is the bars in hell.
There's also no discussion in the study as to whether any of these subjects had comorbid conditions like depression or anxiety, or apraxia, SPD,
Right.
anything else that we've discussed, PCOS, that would have hindered their executive functioning or made their impulsivity or inattention symptoms worse. And I also said, apparently some of these children in the study were living in an inpatient or group home setting, which raises so many fucking ethics questions for me. Like, fucking nuts. So,
Yeah, what guardian is approving this?
yeah. So then, yeah, I agree. Saying 30 milligrams of this medication is equal to 72 milligrams of the stimulant is
And
just
also,
bananas.
if you're like over, oh my god, sorry. If you're like over administering
Mhm.
a stimulant medication,
Yeah,
it's gonna make people's symptoms worse.
yes.
So, like, if you're purposefully administering it so that it's not effective,
And it was like you could go up to that much of a dose. So it wasn't like you're absolutely getting this dose based on your weight, period.
right?
And that's how we're studying it. It was like you could choose to go higher, or your parents could choose to put you on a higher dose or a lower dose.
Or are
like,
they purposely throwing it so they're putting people on like probably a high dose anyway, and then tithing it up, which they're not doing with this saffron bullshit.
right. And as you were talking about, like you get the most out of it right after you take it.
Right.
So you're giving people this saffron shit at night. They go to sleep. They fall asleep faster. They apparently have more hours of sleep per night, which they also did in the methylphenidate group. But we know that sleep totally affects your symptoms.
Also, are they administering this saffron and saying things like, this is really going to help you sleep?
Mm-hmm.
And is it having a suggestive, like, that's
Totally.
what I'm thinking, like,
Like
placebo
imagine, like even a
effect?
parent saying to like, okay, time to take your sleeping medicine. Like, what are you saying to a 7-year-old?
Right,
Like, okay, we got to take your medicine to go to sleep.
right.
Like,
It's like telling a kid that they have to pee before they go to sleep so they don't have bad dreams.
Mhm.
It's the same concept. Like, are you, or you know, you hear about cases where, you know, kids had accused somebody of something like 30 years ago, and you find out because they were asking leading questions.
yes,
So are they basically giving them the results they're looking for by the power of suggestion and telling them, hey, you're gonna, oh man, you are gonna be out like a light. You're gonna sleep so heavy while you take this. And then they wind up feeling like they got this great night's sleep, and it
Which,
has this,
like even if they did have a great night's sleep, okay,
It's
so you're-
gonna improve
you're
your
getting,
symptoms.
right? It's like saying, oh, I took melatonin, so I went to sleep and I was able to fall back to
Mm-hmm.
sleep, so I slept better, so my symptoms weren't as bad.
yep,
So like, and we're seeing now that like the diagnostic criteria and the diagnostic process for ADHD is now including completing a sleep study.
Yep.
Because so many of these kids have problems with their adenoids and their tonsils.
And then what about if they're putting them on a dose of Concerta that's way too high? It's going to interrupt their sleep. Their sleep's going to be worse.
Well, this study reported that everybody got more sleep.
Okay.
But still, like you're still on, if again, you're operating at this high frequency.
Yep.
Like once I went on Concerta, I felt like I was sleeping much better because it was like my brain was finally using all the energy during
Yep.
the day. So then when I got to bed, I could just go to sleep.
Yes.
But like, so cool, fine. But again, you're not comparing, you're not doing the study in a way that can provide clear, comparable results.
Right. Like I know
Like,
when.
and there's specifically, I think also the problem with this study, they acknowledged it was a pilot study. They did not just study saffron, which they could have done. They could have just studied saffron. They specifically studied it to compare to methylphenidate. They could have just said, okay, we're going to have half the group take it in the morning and half the group take it in the evening. You're all getting 30 milligrams. Report back. And then this third group, you get shit for luck. Here, have a sugar pill.
And
Go
also,
nuts.
how much of this is self-reported? Because that's also going to impact.
It was like part of, they had like questionnaires for the parents or guardians on how their symptoms were doing. And then I think it was like they did like those impulsivity tests that Jamie was telling us about.
Okay.
Like they did stuff like that with the kids to report like
Okay.
how it did. So they did do like some sort of
legitimate like data.
right,
option.
which is that thing where it's like if you don't know any better, like I have a fucking doctorate and I still took the time to look at this and I'm like, no, this is fucking nuts. But if you don't know what you're looking at,
Right.
and
I still can't get over giving people the choice. That
wild.
completely defeats the purpose of the whole thing.
Right. Like the whole point, like if you want this to be a viable option for parents with children with ADHD, then in order to prove your hypothesis that it is a viable option, you need to initially remove that choice in your clinical trials.
It is like second grade science class where you're talking about forming a hypothesis, testing your hypothesis. If you give people the fucking choice, you're literally doctoring results at that point.
So,
That's like giving somebody a pill and going, this is the placebo. Do you want to take the placebo or do you want to take the medication?
Mhm.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, anyway.
do you want to get real mad now?
Sure.
So remember when I mentioned the brand name of that saffron extract, Masso?
Oh, yep.
They financed the entire fucking study
Of course they did. Fucking of course they did.
and provided all of the saffron extract for the study.
Oh my God. It's literally a proprietary,
Mm-hmm.
like, fucking amateur test.
You want to get madder?
Now I'm afraid. Yes?
Remember I told you the name of the first researcher on this project, Hilario Blasco Fantasia?
Yeah.
He's the co-founder and CEO of a company named Haglia Solutions, which is a startup devoted to developing, quote, complementary treatments for disease, such as dietary supplements, and the same company this guy owns currently markets a food supplement that includes saffron in its composition.
So what did they just like have a saffron circle jerk? They got together everybody that has anything to do with saffron that can profit off it, and they were like, "Hey, let's do this together."
It is literally Dr. Oz shilling these
Yes.
bullshit weight loss supplements,
and if it's
then
not Dr. Oz, it's
buying the
fucking
Google
Alex
search
Jones.
results.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, Alex.
two simultaneous different thoughts. We both said and agreed on each other's at the same time.
It's magic.
That's
So
a mess.
yeah, like I said, what also pisses me off though is that like that was a U.S. based, I think it was a New York City, ABC channel, but
I
like a
think that
local news
Action
network.
News.
Yeah,
Actually, I think that's where Geraldo Rivera started.
I think so. And
Full circle moment.
really hitting all the Willowbrook high
Yeah, it is. I
points
was not expecting this crossover.
with ourselves.
Yeah. How did we do that?
So like I'm sure that there are some benefits to saffron. Especially I think there's reason to think that for digestive health and people who have like inflammatory bowel disease,
Yeah.
an anti-inflammatory thing like saffron is probably very beneficial and can help soothe your symptoms, especially for people who have like IBS or Crohn's or other things like that are really terrible.
Right.
And tough to deal with. However, that was a U.S. news report. In the U.S., dietary supplements are not regulated by the FDA. There is no governing body that
they
ensures
are the Wild
any
West.
dietary supplement has what they say is on the label is actually in it.
Yeah.
There's no requirement. There's no requirement that even a certain percentage of what's in that quote unquote vitamin or supplement has to be what is on the label.
That's why when you go to the gas station, you can find those peen pills.
Yeah, it's true. Just bust a massive load.
Well,
Anyway,
for your gangrenous flappy doodles. Got him.
you are out of
Got 'em.
control. You're you are getting divorced.
Yep.
Welcome home, baby. So there's no independent evaluation of the efficacy claims either for this shit.
Right.
Which is like the problem with things like It Works and Herbalife and all that bullshit. They can say, oh, it's organic. Oh, it's this. We can trace it back to the farm it grew on. But how are they verified? Like, they can literally say whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah.
How are you going to check on that?
Because you know what? Even when you're saying that there were studies proving it, you were fucking funding the studies. You were throwing the studies. You were providing all of the supplements for the studies. Like, it's so...
And the study that they cited that was like, oh, there's like some benefits for like people with like irritable bowel syndromes. That was a publicly funded study. That was state funded.
Yeah.
So,
okay,
like,
I'll believe that one.
Right, like way more
Sure.
realistic. None of the contributors to that study, none of the researchers had these bullshit biases where they
No,
were like,
this is
oh, I
literally-
own a company that sells this shit.
You know, like the picture of the snake where it's eating its tail?
Yes.
That's what this is.
Yes.
Like, it is just... It's, like, very basic corruption and...
And it's that thing where this is
Capitalism.
like perfectly primed for if it doesn't work for you, it's because you didn't buy the right supplement for you, or you didn't use bullshit Destiny's discount code, or, you know, it's on you that it didn't work. Like the flat tummy tea. It's on you that you just shit your pants and didn't lose weight. It's not the fact that you just drank some bullshit that the Kardashians started selling you.
Right.
Like, no, and on top of it, like we talked about with the pharmacodynamics, there's no studies on how these things affect your hormones, what they do to the other functions of your body.
Are
or
they
how
interacting
how
with
they
other
interact-
things you're taking?
Yes, with other medications. And what are you going to tell your doctor? You go to your doctor and you're like, oh no, I'm not really taking anything different. So either you lie and don't report that you're taking this
Yep.
weirdo saffron extract, or you tell them and they're like, I don't even know what the fuck to do with you because there's no studies on what the fuck saffron does.
Right.
Because nobody takes it at this insane concentration.
Right. And, like, I had a thought that just left
Sorry.
my head.
But it's like, and then on top of it, these studies, this was a 3-month study. So there's no indication that taking 30 milligrams for 3 years doesn't cause some weird buildup in your system.
What if that
or
gives you some
end up
kind of
with, like,
random...
liver toxicity or
Right.
something.
And... Did I just really forget my point again?
Oh
I had it.
no.
And like when those things don't work, then they start with the bullshit of, but did you do a detox before you started it?
Yeah.
See, if you buy this other Saffron product that we have, you have to do a 3-month detox, and it costs $300 a month.
Right.
And then after
You
you
have to
do
take
that
it in the morning
program-
and the night for the first 3 months, and then you can only take it at night, and then you just do
Yes.
this, and if it stops working, then you know you have to do it again with the detox.
all I
and
can
it's
picture
like-
is somebody going to the doctor and them thinking that they have fucking jaundice because the person is turned completely yellow and orange.
Also, Magic School Bus, that episode where the kid turned orange because he kept eating those, like,
Sorry.
seaweed goldfish snacks.
Or the episode of Rescue Me where the guy was jerking it with self-tanning lotion and he was afraid something was wrong with his peen.
I never watched that show, but that sounds delightful.
They were like, why does it look like a Cheeto? And he was like, I don't know, man. I don't know what's wrong with it. And it was because they realized he was using that tanning lotion.
Oh my god, that's
It
so
was-
embarrassing.
It was so funny.
Wasn't his hand, like, black?
No. I don't remember his hand. I don't remember them talking about
Maybe
his
he
hand.
washes his hands afterwards, but not his wiener.
Maybe. I don't know. I just remember being so funny when they were like there must have been a scene where he was like showing the other guys in the firehouse like, look at my neck, and they were all like, ooh, why does it look like a Cheeto?
Oh my
That
god.
was very funny.
I would rather set myself on fire than show you my vagina.
Yeah,
Like,
that's fair.
there would have to be something desperately wrong.
Yeah.
Like, and somehow no way to get to a hospital.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
a baby would be coming out of me if I'm like, well, sorry.
You're gonna have to see it now.
Like, get a towel, I guess. I don't know. Look away? I don't know. Just
put sunglasses on.
Put
I
your
don't know.
hands out and just try not to make eye contact with my cooter.
I just want you to deliver it by feel.
Yeah, no, I would not.
Well, that decompensated quickly.
We needed it because whoa. But like, yeah, so it's just that kind of thing. And it, like,
I would definitely be too embarrassed to tell my doctor that I took that.
I wrote, like, not to sound like I'm wearing a tinfoil hat, but
Love this.
I just think it's so reckless for people on social
yeah.
media to be sharing this stuff.
Yeah.
Because then it's like, oh, well, it's like how people ended up in fucking QAnon because they want to look into more natural remedies and they don't want, you know, they want to be better for the environment. They want to recycle more. And it's like that fucking algorithm is like, oh, you might be interested in this. You might be interested in this. And you end up with this like natural mamas group.
Yep.
And they're recommending this bullshit. And then you end up with these fucking idiots who do this wild birth bullshit and then refuse to have vitamin K given to their kids at birth. And, you know, then they end up with these kids in the NICU and they're like, oh, well, it's just what God's plan was. No, it wasn't, you fucking idiot. God's plan was Western medicine.
Yes.
Like, fucking A.
Yeah, like I definitely try and find the least invasive way to deal with something or, you know, deal with something from a natural way before I'm trying a pharmaceutical way. But that doesn't mean, it does mean that the fucking algorithm sends me shit like that sometimes. And I'm like, no, we're not going there.
It's so easy to fall into it. And again, like,
Yes.
if you don't have the wherewithal or even like the education level to parse out what they're saying in this study.
Oh, for sure.
You're just trusting what this person on social media is telling you.
I started following like some kind of hormone page. And it went right from recommending like stuff with hormones for me to like drinking oat milk is going to give you cancer. Like that was the jump. Like vaccines are bad. Oat milk is bad. Just not eating meat is going to kill people. Like it went so extreme so fast. And I'm like, this is the pipeline.
Yep.
This is the pipeline that sends people into, and I mean, fortunately, like, again, I'm a person looking at it, like, I am the first person, when I see bullshit like that, I report it. I'm like, this is misinformation, this is misleading, this is maybe blatantly untrue and shouldn't be out there, because these social media platforms are completely fucking, it's the Wild West, they're unregulated, and that's how January 6th happened, that's how QAnon came.
And that's the thing,
be.
like, citation fucking needed.
Yeah.
Like, there's just, like, there's a certain level of responsibility if you want to be an influencer, if you want to be, even what we're doing, like.
How often are we telling people, this is not medical advice?
Well, not only that, but, like, we cite to all of our sources. They're in our show notes, and, like, that is super important to me. I feel like people should be given free access to whatever sources are being used, and it's not this, like, TikToker of, oh, I read this article. Cite to the fucking article.
So
Link it to me.
what's the article?
Like,
I literally treat my show notes when I'm prepping for an episode as like a book report where I'm practically putting things in MLA citation.
I know,
like,
it's annoying. I just need the links.
I've had to stop myself because I'm like, okay, like nobody is, calm down. It's okay. And I've really had to like, now I'll just put them at the bottom. But like, I take it very seriously that when I'm saying something, I can tell you where I got that information. So yeah, it is extra, especially in this platform, extra frustrating to see people that are so reckless.
Yes.
With recommending things, with doing paid partnerships with people, with pushing things. It is like, and what if somebody is like really sick?
Yeah.
I
and
mean,
that's like, you know, you don't know what you don't know. Like, you know, once it came out that like BetterHelp was a piece of shit platform.
Also involved in that AI algorithm bullshit.
Yeah, I think that I have a lot of respect for especially podcasters because that's really where I see the ads for it or hear the ads for it, but like that they like cut those ties because it's hard to do. It's hard to cut ties with an advertiser that you don't mesh with. But it's so important to like just say like, no, I'm not sharing that information.
Yeah.
Like I made a mistake. I misspoke. That's interesting information. And even like with the whole gender thing on Jamie's posts, she said like, what study are you reading where you're getting that information from? I'd love to read it. Can you send me a DM with that link to that article or that study? And like nothing comes of it, of course, because it's a fucking opinion.
Right.
But like these are never presented as
No.
an opinion.
Or anecdotal. We'll tell you, this is purely anecdotal,
this
but
is just my story.
right. In
Like,
my experience,
yes.
this.
And that doesn't mean that it's hard and fast evidence
Right.
of what happened. But like, yeah, no, it was just like, it was so frustrating to me. And
It's totally
like, I don't
irresponsible.
know if that TikToker looked up the study that was referenced in the report. I know that she was at least selling.
She definitely didn't. I'm going to go out on a limb and say Destiny fucking definitely didn't.
She definitely was selling the product that was referenced in that news report. But I think that the news report interviewing the fucking guy working for
Wild.
the company, like
Irresponsible.
they disclosed it very quickly though, and they moved right past it. And I just think that that might have been, again, it's a news thing where it's like, okay, it's newsworthy, worth reporting, whatever, but it is that sort of thing where it's like, I don't know, there's like a question to me of, you don't, first of all, not everything is news. Second of all,
Correct. And as a journalist, your role should not be to just regurgitate information.
yeah,
You're kind of there to be a critical eye on something, not just like a ticker tape, like just spitting information out.
right. And I mean, there's plenty to be said about the 24-hour news cycle
I have a
development.
beef with everybody in this situation.
Yeah.
Destiny, the news, the fucking guy
Saffron
in
now
the
is on my
coat,
shit list.
Saffron. Saffron's canceled. Apples.
Yeah, pomegranates.
Man, I'm mad.
I was hot. I was fit to be tied, as you say.
That's not what she said earlier.
No, I said hot to trot.
And I was like, I don't think that's what that means.
I'm pretty sure it means angry.
Angry's not the word that comes to mind. Angry's not the Y word that comes to mind, personally.
But yeah, like, I mean, you know, a parent who's hesitant to put their kid on a stimulant medication, but who's having difficulty, their child's having difficulty in school, could see that report and try it and then feel more discouraged that it doesn't do anything for their child or it's not effective. Or again, like you said, you'd be afraid to like you'd be embarrassed to tell your doctor,
For sure.
oh, I was giving my kid saffron spaghetti.
Saffron.
Like mumble.
And they're like, what? Saffron.
So yeah, I went on this deep dive. The fact that this whole study was paid for by the same company that sells the product that was being tested
And they use
and
the
led
product
by a
in
researcher was that the study led by a researcher who also owns a company that would benefit from this study taking off, and using this study as the 10 commandments on the issue of ADHD symptom management, quote unquote, naturally, is just beyond to me. Like, it's such bullshit.
You know, it makes me think about, obviously, a hot topic, even now, but definitely a couple years ago, you know, of vaccines.
Mhm.
And I remember having a conversation with somebody, and they said that their daughter was not going to be getting vaccinated because she didn't want it to impact her fertility, because she may want to have kids one day. And I said, okay, but does she realize that her cell phone in her pocket's probably going to do more damage than this vaccine will?
Mhm.
Like, I would have needed fertility intervention no matter what.
Correct.
I don't
Yeah.
need fertility intervention because of the vaccine. I needed it before the vaccine.
Right. Like, are they suggesting that
Yep.
doesn't...
Yep. I'm
like,
sure the
PCOS
next
is
line,
not caused by...
vaccines.
whatever,
Nope. I'm also
MMR.
not magnetic, unfortunately.
Oh my God, I went off on that last night when I was telling PK about this, because I was like, you're not magnetic, you're just sweaty.
Yeah, like if I could be Magneto, I totally would. That'd
sure.
be cool.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'm not.
Plus, Ian McKellen's nice.
Yeah.
He's a delightful human in real life when he's not Magneto.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, we can't all get what we want, and I can't be a giant magnetic human. But just because you read something, and I do think that's one of the, like, we've talked about, like, the benefits of social media being, you know, how validating it can be for people to talk with other people that have the same experience, and maybe it illuminates something for you that you weren't aware of before. But the downside is people sharing shit and literally, like, you're making this your whole persona. This nature mama bullshit
Mm-hmm.
And you're not approaching it responsibly, because if you're pushing these with a promo code, that's irresponsible. You're benefiting from that.
Yes. Yeah, like,
You're not
and that's
telling people.
That's the thing where
You're
it's like,
selling it.
yeah, oh, I'd love to tell you more about it. I'll send you a message, which is like peak. Oh, you
MLM.
can't say this yes, you can't say this in public. There's nothing about what you're saying that's actually like not word soup and just like bullshit. But then I also think that part of how MLMs and this type of like predatory marketing has taken off is because social media before like 2014, 2013, it was a absent-minded scroll. Post a photo, scroll very absent-mindedly, and
drunk party pictures.
Yeah. Like it was just something.
It was keg stands
casual.
and prom pics, like,
and it turned into I think we have this idea of like, oh, I'm just bored, so I'm scrolling Instagram. So you go into it with this passive mentality, but you're being fed these very deliberate messages.
Yes.
Very pointed marketing.
As long as you stay on that.
And because you're at it in this like, I'm relaxing. I'm giving my brain a break. So I'm not going into this with the critical thinking hat on. I'm not going into this like I'm at work.
Right.
You know, really looking at like what somebody is telling me, why they're telling me this. And that's how these people kind of get caught up in it. And I feel really bad for them because at least initially it's not your fault. I think once you turn around and you start saying to people, hey, this is really helping me and I'm getting a lot from it. Like, I think you should do this too. You know, it is a fine line, you know, like I want people to share our podcast, but you know, people like Alex Jones have a podcast or Rush Limbaugh had a podcast and
Rest in piss.
You know, like Jordan Peterson or that other fucker that got arrested in
Andrew Tate.
Yeah.
Andrew Taint.
Those people have podcasts too, and they have social media channels and videos and all this other shit. And it's like, oh, I'm just sharing it because I thought you'd be interested. And it's like, I don't know, because like there's something a little bit less. I do think that there is a certain level of responsibility when you're sharing something
100%.
with somebody. I don't think it's necessarily something that should be so passive.
No.
And so while I, of course, like I said, want people to share our podcast with others, I also recognize that like we're not for everybody,
and we're not telling
the Andrew
people,
Tates and Jordan Petersons of the world.
We're also not billing this as something that's going to fix your ADHD.
No,
I mean I think there's definitely an element of like you need to have some cynicism to kind of protect yourself from bullshit like that, because you need to walk into it critically. I think that it's so. Like I said, I mean, you have to think about social media went from being that passive thing to these are giant corporations that are they have more money than most countries have. And when you're scrolling that, the algorithm is collecting data constantly. How long your eyes are staying on something, if you click on something, like you can see it in the things that show up in your feed. So you click one thing, and that is how that radicalization pipeline happens.
Yes.
Is allowing yourself to be blindly led, but they're telling you that you're not one of the sheep in it. So it's just like this, it's so twisted and it's so toxic for people. Like, again, somebody who I can be kind of granola and I can see it in my feed sometimes. If I planning for, labor and delivery, I follow one person who's like, okay, like these are different, movements that can help you be more comfortable in third trimester and things like that. Very quickly goes to why you should only be doing a home birth, which very quickly goes why you shouldn't be vaccinating your kids. So it's just like so easy if you're not aware and you're not critically thinking to be duped by this shit, just like anything, any kind of cure-all. Nothing works that way.
Right.
Guess what? whatever that oil pulling bullshit is with coconut oil in your mouth, which the thought of that makes me want to gag.
Oh my God.
It's not going to fix your dental problems.
Just brush your fucking teeth.
Right.
Like,
So it's...
I promise you, your dentist cares more about your teeth than they do about, like, giving Crest more money. Like, if oil was actually going to make your teeth healthier,
right,
they would tell you it. Like,
and as much as, like, I get people being, I'm suspicious of the man and the government and the patriarchy, but I'm certainly going to trust a large-scale, double-blind government study before I'm going to trust a study done by some tiny, sketchy company with 50 people that are picking their outcomes.
yes, totally.
Woof.
And that's the thing. Like, okay, so the good things about this study, they had boys and girls. Cool.
You said boys and girls. I was like, oh, wow.
Right, exactly.
Okay, I'll give you that.
Yeah, I mean, fuck, the bar is ankle high. Like,
The bar is in hell.
fuck. And, like, that was the thing where I was like, okay, well, it wasn't even, but they were pretty close, you know,
Yeah.
in each group. It wasn't exactly the same number of boys and girls in each group, but relatively similar. So it wasn't, like, so drastic, and I was like, whoa, this was better than most
Wow,
ADHD
good job.
studies. But again, it's that thing of, like, there's no fucking control group. And, like,
Nope.
to say, oh, this is the pilot study, so we're just going to jump to the third or fourth step in these clinical trials. No, pilot study is supposed to be the most fucking basic.
Yep.
And you're building, like, okay, fine, you're building on stuff that's talking about digestive health and neurological benefits and cell growth and all this other shit. Okay, fine. So, like, try it. You know, like, you're not going to know the answer unless you try it. And I fully believe in scientific discovery and the scientific method and pursuing science. I think that's reasonable. But, like, we know that honey has antimicrobial benefits. We're not slapping honey in every cut.
Right.
Like, and we know that garlic has anti-inflammatory benefits. We're not shoving garlic into our fucking ear holes all the time. Like,
all the time. Only some of the time.
only a little bit. Just a bit.
Only the little cloves that are left.
But, like, you know, okay, there's anti-inflammatory benefits, but not if you just, like, have it as a suppository.
Well, and, like, ultimately, like, I do feel like there are plenty of natural remedies that work for things, but is this thing that has these properties going to be the same as, like, a chemical compound that's been created to specifically do this? No. Like, I just, it's definitely...
And it's, like, you know, it's one of the most expensive spices on the planet.
They said saffron, I almost fell off the chair. I'm like, that is so fucking expensive.
Right. And they're not even using saffron. They're using saffron extract.
Where are you getting the saffron? How are you extracting this? Like, what other things could I be exposed to? Like, I will say
there's, like, again, with, at least in the US, with supplements like this, like, when it comes to pharmaceuticals, the grade of the components that go into your medication, that go into my Lexapro, that grade is monitored significantly across all parts of production. That's not monitored with supplements, even a little bit.
No.
So they could be giving you a super shitty quality starting product.
Yep.
So then your end product is less good. And that could just change from batch to batch. So it might work one month and it's not going to work the next month. And again, when you have these hormone
strength is
fluctuations,
going to be different.
Right.
And even, like, I mean, you think about it on, like, a more basic level. Think about, so right now, we just got notification that there is there's a recall of frozen strawberries because of hepatitis exposure. I think Hep A on frozen strawberries. That's food.
Yes.
That's regulated.
Yes.
So that's FDA regulated. So you think about how easy that happens with large-scale food production. Think about the fucking places they are getting some of these spices from, how they're being handled. Like, are people wearing gloves? I mean, there's just, there's no rules.
Well, and you've, like, and also pomegranate, and also this. So then you're adding so many different things into this fucking supplement, then by the end of it, you don't know what it is that's giving you any benefit, if any. Like, so say you do feel, you know what, I actually am having better reaction to stress. I'm managing my stress better. I'm having less emotional outbursts, like with my emotional dysregulation. Okay, cool. But I don't know if it's the saffron or the pomegranate or the apple or the theanine or whatever the fuck.
So some little sprinkle of something's not going to fix anything. Which ultimately, if you're taking it in a capsule of it, it's
and
a
the
sprinkle.
reality is that, like, I mean, you know, like you said, there's very valid objections and questions to ask about FDA approvals, that whole process,
Totally.
about federal grants and how those are awarded, about the lobbying practices.
Right.
There's very valid questions there, and I'm not saying that system is perfect, but
It doesn't mean that it's inherently flawed.
exactly.
Yeah.
And the the reality is that I really do believe most doctors, most healthcare providers, most researchers, especially biomedical researchers, really, really want to help you.
Yeah.
And they really want to cure the problem.
Just make sure that, like, I'm not picking them.
Why?
Because I just have bad luck.
Oh, yeah, you're not allowed to pick your doctors.
Right, yeah.
I have to do that for you.
Yes.
But like these biomedical researchers, if saffron cured ADHD or made it so that you effectively had no symptom variation at all, your symptoms, well, you take this and your symptoms are what they are, and everything else you can manage, done. Cool. If that was an option, we would know about it.
Something that simplistic, yes.
Yeah, like I think these researchers would have gotten there by now.
Right.
And because it would have been this thing like Bayer aspirin was a patent medicine and we still have aspirin. Like, you know, these simple things that like Vicks VapoRub, we still have Vicks VapoRub, and that's
do I love
started
Vicks.
as like a snake oil, quote unquote, type thing. We still use it. So these things that we've known about for over 100 years, we still have them. So it's the kind of thing where I'm like, humans are naturally extremely inquisitive people. We will try any mushroom once, and
Yeah?
yeah, just ask Dead Bob.
That's that guy over there foaming at the mouth.
But we try these things, and to think that we've been here for 10,000 years and haven't just figured this out. Like, if ancient humans figured out, hey, if you get a cut and you put some honey on your bandage and wrap that over your wound, you're not going to get as many bugs and crap in there. You'll heal better. So they figured that out with fucking honey without having a lab to do these tests in. So I just think that, like, if they were like, we eat this crocus flower, we don't feel as achy in our joints.
And, like, you also think about the fact, so, like, the importance of context. So honey can be helpful in that situation. If you give honey to a baby, they can fucking die.
Right, or you
So,
put
like,
honey on, like, a burn, it's just going to insulate the burn and make it way worse.
Worse.
It'd be so bad.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's definitely,
Yeah.
like, context is important, and I think that there are merits in these large-scale institutional processes that have been perfected over the last couple hundred years. And there's a reason that they're used as a standard for so many things. It's like, to me, fundamentally, it's the same thing as when people were going on about elections being stolen. I listened to a story on NPR because we know I'm an NPR nerd, and they went through the entire, like, chain of custody of ballots during an election. They went literally from the time you cast your ballot, and then it goes here, and the checks and balances are, like, extreme. I mean, it is literally checked and confirmed on, like, a multitude of layers by different parties. Like, there's really no feasible way to fuck with it, basically. They've made it, like, nothing's airtight,
They didn't
but it's
find
like
12,000 ballots in a river in a runoff ditch in California.
so weird. No, they didn't. I had somebody tell me that, and I looked him in the face and said he needs to diversify his news sources because that's been disproven. But yeah, it's like you take a process that they've been working on and working on and working on and really found a way to make it secure. Why are we allowing this pure misinformation to become a runaway train? And that's what's happening with this. And I think it's all bundled into that same, like, QAnon basket where we're not trusting any institution. Not that we're going to acknowledge institutional systemic problems like racism,
Right.
but we are definitely going to be worried about vaccines.
Yeah, the problem is the pharmaceuticals, not the system that makes it impossible for you to get a second opinion or to seek an alternative, like, medical treatment.
Or to even get the best, most efficient treatment.
Yeah.
For whatever reason.
Right.
Because your doctor is racist and the system is racist. So, like, not that we're acknowledging those type of systemic problems. We're
Right. They'll
inventing
just- yeah. And
systemic
like
problems.
I also see us also in like the birth realm, there's a lot of like, oh, you know, maternal mortality rates are so high and fetal mortality rates are so high and blah 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 blah. But
I literally read about this morning.
oh really?
Yeah, because somebody was like, so maternal mortality has gone, in the United States, is like higher than any other industrialized nation.
Yeah, there's no reason for our rate to be so high.
Right. And there are certain areas of the country, especially down south, where it's worse.
Yep.
And it's definitely worse for pregnant people of color. I mean,
Yes.
it is.
And that's the thing where like you look at those again, it's like the algorithm thing. Like either you can completely remove the race, like you're looking at only white mothers.
Right. You want to lie to yourself and say that it's.
Well, and
everything's
that's
fine.
You know, like most of the people shilling this natural stuff are white people.
For sure.
But you're using these statistics that are super accurate and even scarier for people of color
Right.
as a battle cry to other white people to
Right.
induce this fear,
Right.
which it's I think that women of color or people of color who are pregnant have every right to be concerned and to advocate their ass off for themselves. But I'm certain that this free birth movement bullshit is going to cause more fetal and maternal deaths than birthing in a hospital.
Oh, for sure. Like, I mean, when you really break it down, the reason people aren't delivering in fucking potato fields anymore is because it's not a safe place to deliver a baby.
Well, and the reason to have even, you know, a fucking anatomy scan or a regular scan to know what your gestational age is so that we know when you're due, because we know that the placenta will start to deteriorate
Right, beyond a
after week
certain point.
41.
Right.
And it's when it deteriorates, the baby suddenly stops getting food and oxygen.
Right.
Which I don't know if you live without food and oxygen, but I sure as fuck don't. Like
This person, so there was somebody it was on Reddit, and they were talking about, like, I see that these rates have gone up, and which, I mean, really, when you think about it, the state of hospitals and staffing and things like that right now, like, yeah, I can see with the burnout being extremely high,
Totally.
how that can happen. And she was like, I'm just so terrified. Of course, like, I can testify, any pregnant person is fucking terrified thinking about there's only one way we're coming out here.
right.
There's a one exit strategy.
Through your mouth.
Not through my mouth. So funny. She was like, okay, so maybe put it into perspective like this. She was like, there's like, I don't know, it was like 3.2 million births in the US a year. She was like, and if the mortality rate is like 1%, she was like, that's still like 1 in 3,000. So she said, your chance of dying in a car accident is like 1 in 100.
Mm-hmm.
So she said, really, like, when you break it down that way, statistically, you're probably going to be fine.
Yes.
So that's kind of how I have to unpack it. It's kind of like, I will fly because I think it is too restrictive not to.
Mm-hmm.
I hate flying.
Yeah.
I'm a very nervous flyer. I don't enjoy any part of the process. I hate the airport. I hate the airplane, taking off, landing, the whole nine. But I have to literally sit there and tell myself it would be way more dangerous for me to drive to wherever I'm going than it would be to fly.
Yeah.
I'm going to ignore any environmental impact because that will make me feel sad and overwhelmed. But it's sometimes you do have to break things down that way. And like when you look at, okay, if I have ADHD and it's interfering with my life enough that I've been able to get a confirmed diagnosis, do I really think saffron extract is going to be a cure-all for something that's interfering in my whole fucking life?
Right.
It sure is not. Just like an apple is not going to fit. The apple extract. I'm just like really hung up on that. If
You
I could
really
have
are.
cured it with apples, man.
What really gets me is his thing of like, oh, we're seeing it fix depression.
There is no such thing.
I just think that, like, you know, you're saying this to people who have a 15-year-old who is having, you know, trigger warning, suicidal ideation.
Right.
But, you know, you're saying this to a parent who's terrified for their child.
Yeah, it's
and
predatory.
wants their child to survive because that's a fucking scary spot to be in, you know? Like, not every teenager who's depressed has abusive parents. And so obviously I'm only talking about the non-abusive ones, but like, you know, those parents will try anything. And it's like you said, yeah, it's predatory. And I just think, you know, it just pissed me off because it's that sort of thing where it's like, you can't, other than like completely unplugging from everything, which is ultimately unrealistic. Like, you could do that if you want to, I guess, but like, it's the kind of thing where you kind of just have to, I mean, like, my mom sent me that link and I had to like look at it and say, like, I did a quick search and I was like, no, I don't think this is accurate because, first of all, in that video alone, the first guy they talked to sells the fucking product.
Yes.
The second guy they talked to couldn't even see his fucking credentials because the girl covered it up. And then when I looked up the study, like, it's funded by the fucking company that makes the Saffron. So, like, and that, I hadn't even gotten to the part about the guy, the researcher, and his conflict of interest.
And it's, you know, how many people are just sharing it.
Right, and that's at the very bottom of the page. And realistically, the only reason I knew to look for that is because of maintenance phase.
Yes, and Sawbones.
Yes.
When they talk about like how often things on a historical level have been used as a cure-all.
Yes.
And that's what I love about that is they're like, anything that they're telling you is a cure-all is not a cure-all.
Yeah, there's no way that something that has been shown in a state-funded blind study to provide some digestive relief to people with severe digestive issues would also help you with colon cancer, breast cancer, lung cancer, skin cancer, and something else.
We should ask Steve Jobs about that.
You made the face
I
of
did that.
Tina Belcher. You just stared and like waited for the response.
That was and I'm Garet, and then just looked off in my mind.
God, we've come so far.
Have we? Yeah, I just think it's really irresponsible and it's really dangerous and it's really predatory. And I mean, you also hear those stories about kids that are like 15, 16 that are trying to find out how they can go to the doctor and get fucking vaccinated for things because their parents won't let them
Or get on birth
vaccinated.
control.
Yes.
Or get a Plan B pill because, oops, didn't realize I was going to be having sex and I did. And now I'm scared because I didn't know because my school doesn't teach comprehensive sex ed and my parents won't talk to me about it.
Yeah.
So like the whole thing is just like so fucked. And yeah, so that's our first momisode with the one source. But I mean, that being said, if Saffron works for you, cool, knock yourself out. But if I see you tagging us in your fucking promo code, man,
If I see you shilling that to people.
like, and that's like, if it works for you, cool.
And how many times on this pod have we talked about this specific technique works really well for me?
Mm-hmm.
Not
Right, like I'm not
do
saying
this to fix your
don't
ADHD.
ever try it. If you want to try it, cool. But like,
Yeah, fucking go for it. If
you
you want
know,
to turn yellow, fine.
like, yeah, just like grain of salt with it. Like, you know, I don't want you to try it and then feel like you're a failure because it doesn't work.
Yes.
Like,
And also, it's probably super fucking expensive.
probably. I didn't look up the prices of it, honestly.
That's probably for the better. We just would have been mad.
I mean, her promo code was for $10 off. So either it's $15 or $150.
It's no different than things that guarantee weight loss, things that guarantee cancer cures or COVID cures or anti-inflammatory cures. Nothing is a cure-all.
Yeah.
There's literally, aside from having strep throat and taking an antibiotic, nothing is a cure-all.
Well, that's still not a cure-all. It's just curing the one thing.
That's true. That's
It's
true.
just taking care of the bacteria. And only that one type of bacteria. That's why they have to know what type of bacteria
That's
you
true.
have.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
Yeah, like more specifically. So yeah, it's sleep with one eye open. No, I'm just kidding. Take your Saffron before you go to bed. Don't do that either.
yeah, I mean, like, take it for sleep if you don't like melatonin, but just take melatonin.
Yeah, I mean, or Unisom. I've been
rocking Unisom too.
Unisom, I'd be definitely dead by now because I almost poisoned
You would
us.
be Bella Swan in the third Twilight movie when
I haven't
she's
seen the Twilights.
the baby is like eating all of her blood because it's a vampire baby or whatever the fuck. So she looks like fully emaciated with like a beach. She looks like Hilaria Baldwin pregnant. Like, it's nuts. I'll send a picture of it to you.
I love that we just finished this very intense discussion and Katie's explaining something to me in terms of it's when she has the vampire baby and it's sucking her blood. Well,
They start feeding her blood from the donor bank, because that was the only thing that she wanted to eat, even though she was human at the time. So that's how you would have been if you didn't have Unisom. Is the point? If you would let me finish.
God, I just could have finished my point.
God, I'm such a jerk.
Um,
So anyway,
yeah, that was something.
so if you have something that you want us to look into, I mean, we're recording this like 6 months in advance.
yeah, and alternatively, if you just want to hear us scream about something, we really covered a lot of ground. We screamed about
We
the
did.
patriarchy. We screamed about like false advertising, social media, the man, the patriarchy, QAnon,
Mm-hmm. Alex
Jones, election fraud.
Mhm.
That's a lot of screeching.
I thought it was going to be a shorter episode, but we nailed it.
No, we really got right on our normal bullshit. Turns out we need very little
Mhm.
to just spin in space.
It was
What
like
that? Astral
lighting a Roman
projecting.
candle. Yeah, astral projecting.
We were recording, I mean, by now they've definitely heard that episode months before, but Katie said that and I was like, I thought that was like a meditation thing. Isn't that like a... Yep, it is. Oh, okay. That's why I'm confused.
Yeah, it makes sense.
It makes perfect sense.
Our listeners will get it.
Kind of like the vampire baby. Duh.
Yeah.
So remember to,
Name your baby Bella Swan.
no.
Okay.
Remember to critically think for yourself and be aware of deceptive advertising practices and fake studies.
Yeah.
Because you could, like, I feel like gravely injure yourself otherwise.
Yeah. You should be able to very easily find who funded the study, and the conflicts of interest that were disclosed by the researchers. And these were freely disclosed by the researchers at the bottom of the study. So it was right there. I didn't have to, like, reach out to anybody.
Yeah, because nobody's going to take the time. So make sure you're taking the time.
So yeah, just scroll down.
Make sure that you're not getting messaged by a multi-level marketing company to fucking push some bullshit that doesn't really work.
Yeah. The bar is ankle high.
Bars in hell. Bye.
Bye.